And we're kind of just in this pre-game now before Game 3. Series is evened up 1-1. DFM won the Game 1 relatively comfortably, but with V3 fighting back. And then V3 flipped the whole damn table, scattered everything across the casino, and said, see you later, nerds. Odawamne showed us yesterday. V3 showed it in-game today with some insane stuff in Game 2. Maple, you hated the draft from DFM. What do they need to do differently to not have that happen again?
Well, they get side choice again, so it's probably off the blue side and you first pick Gnar. Right. But
we mentioned that.
Yeah, like I think DFM is at their best when they just have like really strong lanes and they just control the game from start to finish. I don't think they're very good on scaling. Like they have really good win conditions through top and bottom in most times, but now that they have Arya as well, like you have potentially 3 of the best laners. So just pick a strong matchup for them and win through it. Don't pick a losing matchup top, a losing matchup mid, and a questionable matchup bottom.
Absolutely. That's very reasonable. Counterfeit, I'm going to hand you over an oxygen tank because you're going to have to scale this gold graph with me here. That's a mighty altitude that V3 picked up in this game.
And the thing that really struck me initially about this was, V3, they broke my heart again and again in game number 1. But this time, they didn't screw it up. They just kept building and building, exactly as the gold graph says there. It just kept going, and I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop for Detonation FocusMe to show what they're made of, but that one kill aside, it completely shutting out. Look at the Drakes, Barons and everything, and Towers. This is exactly the Detonation FocusMe performance that V3 should be chasing, and it's been consistent throughout their lost games. If they can't get rolling, they can't do anything.
Shut them out early, they were on scaling, they have Muujin absolutely run over the game. That is quite the Olaf stat line. Joshi, I'm going to come to you here as well. V3 took a very convincing Game 2 win. They're back onto red side this time out. What do they need to do to try and reprise that kind of performance as impressive as it was in Game 2?
I mean, I think the big thing that we got to pay attention to is how DFM choose to draft, right? We said early on at the very beginning of the day that so much of this series is going to be won or lost on the top half of the map. And we saw this time that DFM could not take the fight. They tried to get a long chase, didn't go particularly well. And the Olaf, right, only strong early on in the game. So the easy answer is don't fight him. Right? Like, just stay away from the Olaf for 10 minutes and you win.
Why? Why are you running after this twisted fate? Stop!
Stay away. Don't fight me, DFM, okay? It's that simple. Stay away. But I think it is the kind of thing where V3, they need to figure out what they want to play into the Gnar if they're going to be giving it over, or you take it away from Evie. He hasn't had the same kind of performances on other champs. Other things are easier to punish. You happily give Evie the Shenanigan. You happily give him the Aatrox, the Renekton, the Volibear that he's played, because these are all things that don't have as much agency in the game as Gnar, and I think if you do that, you set yourself up for a lot more early game success, which will translate into a lot more opportunities for victory. So I think if V3 can just ban that away, you don't even have to think about it. Who cares what counter picks there are if there is not the Gnar in the game?
There you go. Gnar is the thing that needs to be off the table because Maple Street, you're not convinced people have counters.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it involves like really well coordinated jungle and top play. Like you have to kill him in mini Gnar form. You have to dive him. You have to put him behind early game because Stridebreaker is busted. When he has that item, he jumps in like 800 rage and just engages you every single time. He can choose when to fight when he's ahead, but if you put him really, really far behind, he cannot get close without just instantly dying.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair to say. Counterfeit, anything else you want to weigh in on here? Either team, really, in terms of what you want to see from this next game?
I mean, I think the, Hog getting the chance to show off was hugely vindicating, to see them put in a position. Yeah, I know. I'd love to see much more of that. I was just say, it seems like Gnar is pretty much destined for the ban bench here. If there's any realistic possibility of seeing that top lane and not just go wildly out of control again.
Okay, one last little thing before we start thinking of moving over towards the caster desk. Maple, can Kazu die the same way 3 games in a row?
If you believe hard enough, I think so. Yeah.
If you believe hard
I don't know.
enough.
He's trying to win lane when he doesn't need to. DFM will outplay in team fights. You have the best mid laner in the entire region. You have arguably the best top laner in the region. Just why are you so far up? Like you're trying to win this 2v2 so desperately, and your jungler's on like not close enough to help you. It's just too risky.
If you know Muujin's going to skip a couple camps to be there early, and you know Steel's going to be full clearing, at least put down a ward. Like, I know you're using a level 1, but just maybe save one. Maybe just have one to spot out Muujin coming in if you're going to show up like that.
What is that? A ward?
I think it's what you call your jungler when he falls behind that far.
True. He just walks around and he sees somebody. He's like, "Hey, don't go here."
It's worth about
Run
as much at that point when you've died that many times. Okay, enough flame. Counterfeit. Last things. I believe you have something for me, and I'm told I should be prepared to be disappointed.
Well, sometimes we need to look outside of our normal sources for information on how a particular game's going to go. So going into game 3, I consulted, with books of knowledge, books of, of prophecy, and also nursery rhymes as well. For instance, here's a church, here's a steeple, open the doors, and V3 wins. You're welcome.
I'm done. I'm not doing this. Patrick, cut. We're out. We're going to the caster desk. Get counterfeit off my screen.
And we're back.
I am astounded. Whoever here behind the scenes agreed to have counterfeit on the analyst desk with that kind of statement. Don't tell me you've got something for me. I recognise that face.
No, I was about to say that actually. Like I was gonna hand it to him. Oh no! There's something on our hands. There's a series on our hands, and it has been a pun done to death. But I just had to, and we are now very effectively into a glorified best of 3, all things said and done. I didn't quite think it was going to be that much of a shellacking in game 2. DFM, though, they are going to be reprising this, hey, blue side's pretty good kind of theme we've seen from most of the series this playoffs. They will have the game 3 and 5 side advantage, and that would be enough to close out the series for them, and that made me very happy as I predicted that 3-2. Maybe a little bit less good for you, though.
I apologise on behalf of the LJL for some of the awful puns that have been coming your way. Counterfeit Chimera will be having words about after this. I will be seeking legal counsel because that's completely unfair and unreasonable to be showing on broadcast.
Someone's actually made a very good point in the fact that I've got a series on our hand. I need to write it on multiple hands. So next
on
time,
our hands, so it needs to be on mine as well.
Next time it happens, we'll have been. It's gonna be like that one thing from Doctor Who where you just like start like making like tally marks across all of you, and that's pretty much it.
I'm gonna agree with you, but I don't remember that all that. Oh, is that like the ooze one?
Okay, it's fine.
I don't know. Here we go. We're into pick and ban anyway.
Things to talk about.
All right, to drag ourselves away from poor puns and my fellow analysts putting me into despair, we have ourselves game 3. DFM versus DFM back on the blue. V3 just bat away the Gnar. Maple and Joshi breathe a sigh of relief. Just get rid of it.
Honestly, I just can't disagree with it at this point. It's too much of a power pick. I would have really liked to see DFM go back to something like the Akali and say, just square up. Can you, just lock that in? It's a flex pick as well. If you're not comfortable with it in the composition in terms of a top lane pick and you'd prefer to have a different top laner, you can still start pivoting around that. You have 2 competent Akali players on your team. Literally the only other Akali in the region is Dasher. He didn't even make it into playoffs. Well, no, he only had that one series run and they lost to V3 in the first round. So, DFM, going to first pick that Hecarim again. It is running back the game 1 draft so far with the Senna Tahm Kench response.
Senna Tahm Kench did make the Nocturne a bit more difficult, but I think Hecarim a little bit more versatile than Nocturne in terms of his ability to go in a little bit more safely, perhaps. At least until Nocturne, of course, gets the Starek second. They'll lock in the Kai'Sa to follow up. We'll see what that third pick is. I wonder whether it's something to go for Kazu. They go back towards the set. It was half amazing, half very not in the first game.
That it was. Going for the Todoroki of half hot, half cold. The set, if it is going to be against a low CC composition again, can just use that phase rush, get the hell out of dodge. It was very important in that game one to have that rise as well. Able to escape most of the situations that DFM found themselves in. They weren't caught out early. I think an important thing that DFM need to consider now is you're against that Olaf, against the Hecarim. Are you going to pick a stronger pre-6 top and mid lane? Because in that last game, it seemed like DFM with the Cast and Hecarim picked maybe the weakest pre-6 jungle 2v2 you can have on the current meta picks. With the Shen losing to the Natu early on, it was about as lacking in pressure as DFM could get.
Indeed. Of course, we'll see Mujin back on the Olaf, as we've kind of seen. It is his go-to answer into Hecarim. His team has played very well about allowing him to get into the Hecarim's face early, cause him some strife, but to do that they're going to need some priority lanes, and that is why we're seeing the Orianna and the Ryze bans, whereas DFM get rid of the Twisted Fate, they get rid of the LeBlanc, get Ace off those champions.
Exactly, they are mobile CC setup champions, stuff like the Everfrost being built on both the TF and the LeBlanc gold card chain is just a little too much for DFM to really play into. Now the question is, what are they going to lock in? Is it going to be something like that Karma again to flex between things? No, it's going to be the Victor straight out and allows them maybe to choose a better top lane matchup and again have some engage which they lacked in that first game.
It was a heavy mid focus from both teams, but Aria is known for having an exceptionally wide champion pool. Of course, Ace kind of picks up the last true remaining control mage mid. There is a world where Syndra or Zoe comes through, but I'd argue they're perhaps a touch lower priority.
You mean Anivia is not the pick? Actually, it
wouldn't be bad into Tom Kench in fairness. Or Olaf.
Unironically, not a bad pick, but we'll spend a less time talking about that because no one's played it this split. No one's played it for quite a long time in the LJL, in fact.
Watch him lock in the Articuno here.
It's effectively the same thing. Gragas locked in, likely, well, I mean, there is technically a flex between the Set and the Gragas. If there's a tank locked into V3, actually, maybe putting that Set into top lane wouldn't be the worst thing. It is going to be returned to the one remaining control mage in the champion pool of the meta mid laners, and it is going to be the Syndra locked in, and Volibear goes into the top side for V3.
Cog had a couple of very strong games versus Rascal Jesters.
A couple of really weak games too, though.
Not worse for Rascal, just for Sengoku game where he got to proxy farm once twice, but the initial game on it was a little bit suspect. It's into Ebby's Gragas. He's pretty good at the champion. Of course, I suppose it could still be the Set top is the thing. We've got to keep our eyes on that. Ebby thinking about running Set into the Volibear.
So I mean, I'm looking at this. I don't. No. Set doesn't really win into Volibear.
Nope.
Set wins into Scion. He wins into tankier matchups. Loses almost every fighter matchup in the game right now. As much as Ebby's Set was a thing of beauty in 2020, not really what we want to see from this particular game. It is going to be Kazu on the Set again, not the Gragas again, thankfully. That last game, a little awkward from Kazu on the Drunkard. These are our lineups.
Okay, so again, it's this sort of weak side defensive bot from V3. They'll be wanting to play through the top side with a Victor and a Volibear. Definitely makes sense for the Olaf to try and play through that, try and make Steel's life on the top side a bit trickier, but I think those are stronger setups for the Hecarim in the top side. Hell, everywhere, he looks decent CC there.
Exactly, much stronger pre-6 fighting ability from the side of DFM. Yes, they took a scaling composition to fight towards the late game in the last game. Most of the time I think, oh wow, V3, they do win if they're ahead, if they get lead early into the game, but DFM just said, alright, well, if the game goes late, we'll win, but then they chose to fight anyway. This time, kind of plays a bit more into their more bloodthirsty playstyle.
Yeah, and I think this time around, actually, I think V3 have probably got slightly more scaling in terms of Senna and Victor post 30 minutes are terrors. Not that Syndra and Kai'Sa are bad at that point in the game, but it's not the same consistent DPS.
Because it's Arya Syndra, I'll give it a bit more of a free pass, because it is once again going to be a phase rush mid laner for DFM. That's important, allows you to run out.
4 phase rushes for DFM.
4 phase rushes, and the dedicated CC you have is Gravity Field, that's important, the Senna W, and then at least you have the Volibear Q to slam down on them and stun them in place. But if you don't land with that, but that's not AoE CC. Right, that's not, unless you get a huge stand W, which I'm not really expecting to happen, DFM are likely going to be able to reposition during these fights and take it anew.
Well, so V3, it is Olaf and Volibear running at you, backed up by Victor and Senna throwing down their stuff from long range.
That it is. So, going into, once again, Mugen looking to start topside, still doing the same. So
Three
if
games
this
in a row.
is going to be, another bot lane gank from the side of Mugen, he's going to start on the Raptors with the Sky Splitter leash from the side of Cog.
Nice leash.
DFM, this has happened 2 games already. Don't be getting ganked at that 3-minute mark. We know what happens.
And we're straight into a game pause. Literally as the AI power spike comes up, and I'm literally proven statistically wrong about saying, well, maybe V3 scale better.
I think ever since the rage play changes from for particularly Senna in particular, it does hit the scaling. You also have the problem of Olaf late game versus Hecarim late game. Early game, we've seen how V3 have absolutely mauled Hecarim's pre-6. But the later you go into things, if you are not ahead on that Olaf, Hecarim just outperforms you. And against all those phase rushes, you find it much harder to close people down.
I think that is fair to say. We're going to have to see kind of whether V3 can do what their kind of comp is supposed to in this early game, right? Like, get this Olaf into the Hecarim's face again, and then try and play out from there with the sort of Senna being the weak side and playing through that top mid sort of side of the map. I'll be interested to see whether, of course, they can actually do it. It'll be a little harder for them to get lane priority, I think, this time out.
Yeah, so, Game 3, 1-1. It is definitely worth saying that V3 had a much firmer handle on their win than DFM.
Yeah.
We need to see again now with the change in priorities of bans whether V3 have themselves, that ability to win on red side, because they have to now, if this is going to be trading games on side choice, they have to take one away from DFM. They won that game 5 on red side versus Sengoku. They are currently 4 games on a 4-game win streak rather on red side. So taking that last game against Sengoku and then the 3 games against and the 3 games against Rascal Jester. Yes, they have themselves a good win record on red side, but then of course they lost game 1 against DFM. Their recent record not unfortunately for them, not upheld.
And that's exactly it. It was, of course, the thing is, it was such a hard snowball of 2 basic mistakes, overshoving in the bot lane into that ridiculous chase onto Twisted Fate that got snowballed incredibly from there. The Herald play afterwards was good stuff from V3, very proactive, but from that point on, DFM had no way back in.
No.
V3 did a very good job of snowballing, but
Again,
how often do you get that kind of start in a game?
Exactly, and how often do you get that kind of start in the game against a composition which just has to take the punches and can't fight back?
Yeah.
Because I was trying to think of literally any worse pre-6 skirmisher. Old Akali.
Yeah, level 1 Akali.
You just threw the little. And that was
it? That was all you did? Yeah.
It's the worst level 1 champion in the game for all intents and purposes. And as much as Arya kept themselves relevant in that game, you do need to have that coordination to outlast that early onslaught that Olaf has. And again, we have that Olaf, and there aren't that many openings for DFM to exploit. There's a safe bot lane. Maybe you can look for something in that mid lane. There's not something you can as easily force onto mid as you could do in the first game with the rise of the Wild Realm up forward, having the extra move when you proc your passive, and then having the Nocturne flying in. Kazu, of course, has unlocked himself in both of the games so far, for better or for worse. We've seen him get caught out too on those roams. And DFM looking once again with the set again to make things work, particularly trying to upset that Victor scaling into that Syndra, because I think Syndra does need a lead, honestly, to be effective in this game. Don't really do that much damage to a Tahm Kench if you're behind.
Yeah.
Don't really do much to a Volibear even if you're behind.
And there's also a world where you start throwing unleashed powers and Tahm Kench devours the person you're throwing that at, which gets a bit sad. Of course, actually, what you also do is get to press R first and then scatter the weak for big team fight starts.
So what I'm looking for, and what Arya has done historically very well on this Syndra, is to be that disengaged control mage, right? So you're going to jump in with a Volibear. If you get QRE'd, you get the extra ball down from your Dark Sphere, then you have a lot of basically this whole just scatter shot stun going through the team. If you can land that onto the three people who can't ignore the CC either with the Volibear or the Olaf ult, you split the team at that point. And when you can start then, punting away the backline with the Gragas 2, I think that DFM in a front-to-back setting actually might have the advantage because they can split the battle lines and just say, no, Senna, you're out. Victor, you're out. You don't get to stand there. You don't get to DPS. And then the tanks of V3 have to be so far ahead to buy time so that they can catch up from that displacement.
Just here in a game pause, ladies and gentlemen. We'll feed back to you when we work out what's going on, how long it's going to be. No idea what the issues are as yet, but that does leave us with a little bit more time to ruminate on this pre-game at the very least.
I knew I was the real analyst, SK. Don't worry, I requested it. You see, I'm sorry, and don't you click off the screen, so to say. let's get Nightmare off the screen once more. But yeah, I mean, I think that coming into this series, let's take a step back. We've got the time to. We've talked about a couple of the larger narratives. The LJL teams have struggled to perform internationally for several years now at this point. 2019, DFM went to Worlds, and they lost pretty horribly. They lost to Isurus in that 50-minute game where Saros played as Ziggs, and it just kind of went out of control. They struggled to play their style for most of that tournament, and they had an early exit from it. 2020, DFM didn't get a chance to go to MSI in that year because of the COVID situation. And at Worlds, V3 then overtook the LJL and they went international. And they got smashed in play-ins. They were the only team to not beat LGD in their group. And then LGD, of course, managed to qualify for the main stage after that point. They took one game off of the LLA representatives of Rainbow Seven. And after that, they just really struggled. And then, so now we are waiting for that spiritual successor, that next heir apparent to come out of this region. It will be one of these two previous Worlds representatives to come out and actually stick to their style to once and actually come out all guns blazing, because we've wanted that for so long now as LJL fans and people who cover the region.
Exactly that. That's a really eloquent way of putting it, I think, honestly. Not to bring us too far back from what was going on. I was just checking around to see whether we've got any information about what this pause is about. Still a little in the dark here, guys.
It's a lie. He actually just doesn't want to talk to me.
I've not got him on the desk for a reason, guys. I've upgraded. Look.
I wish I could actually argue against that, but it's been really, really awesome working with.
Great.
It's been really cool working with Maple Street and Joshi because, as people who are English-speaking primary speakers who cover or are otherwise interested in the LJL, it's been really cool bridging that gap between us and actually starting to reach out and saying, hey, do you want to get together and talk LJL? Do you want to, I don't know, maybe cover the finals? And it's been great to see all of these individual people in our kind of our wider social broadcast circle come together for this great broadcast and a great opportunity to work together on this.
Indeed it is, and we're still, of course, stuck in this pause. That means you're still stuck with us for a little bit, still kind of working out how all this will play out, not sure what the issue is. Resident Sleepers flying in chat, even from our producer, notably, which is always a bad sign.
That's just a screenshot of what we would be doing if the series wasn't happening right now and didn't start at 7 a.m. for us, which means that we have to get up very, very early.
that like 5:40 a.m. alarm clock was not the way forward, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, that's how we break phones.
Yeah, well, I'm still here. I am being fueled by caffeine and a love of the LJL right now. Still in this game. Speaking of people getting a little bit sleepy, people on stage here definitely getting a little bit tired themselves, waiting to get into game.
No, they're being very considerate, They say, oh, this Nightmare guy, he's talking so much sense, which is, I wish I could joke about that, but anyway.
It is the way of the world. Still getting some nice face shots of everybody involved. Still just waiting again to get back into game to have these issues resolved. I'm not quite sure what the issues are. At this rate, we might have a bit of discussion to see whether we can bring back some of our analysts, but until that time, we'll just keep chatting here about what's going on in this game. What are you expecting out of the first 5 minutes, I suppose, is the other option here. Both junglers were starting topside, been the play every single time. Are we going to see another one of those very early ganks that seem to succeed on DFM's bot lane?
Hecarim's first clear is not nearly as fast as Olaf's, even with the nerfs to Olaf's stats. Yeah. It's just, he's so ascendant in that role. I think literally only Karthus and actually Fiddlesticks can do a lot of fun things with his W, of course. But I mean, I'm looking at this game and I'm thinking Mugen has the onus on him again to really just screw over whatever Steel wants to be doing on that Hecarim, and seeing if they can hold down this priority jungler, which has been priority the world over too. For so long. So I'm looking at that, and a lot of that will start with, can you upset that bot lane again? It's happened 2 times, why not try it a third?
Well, it's done work one time, not work the other. When it did work, it worked real well. Though I grant you, as we've said before, a certain amount of that was DFM literally walking into the Lion's Den, like offering themselves up to the Olaf by chasing TF across 3 blast codes. Like, that shouldn't happen.
Well, I mean, the LJL is it's obviously sponsored by dietary supplements. You're thinking, oh, it's about a healthy diet. You can't just man cannot live off of bread, or in this case, jungle camps alone. There is an extra camp, and it is known as the enemy jungler.
Yeah, that one was Mugen eating the whole of DFM for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He definitely got himself a nice 3-course meal in that game. Can try and return the favour here. It is Olaf again. He's been pretty damn good on it. We've mentioned that maybe it's not the most meta thing, but it has seemed to be pretty strong for this guy into the Hecarim specifically.
That it has. So, again, just waiting for information on whatever is going to be happening with this pause. So, I mean, okay, so let's take it this way, because we can, again, take a bit of a step back. Out of this series, what are you looking for in the LJL representative? Yeah. This team is more than likely going to get smashed by Damwon Kier and the eventual LCS win. I mean, there's a chance, maybe, we can contend with that LCS region, but I think that, again, while they maybe haven't had the results of the other major regions, they are still a strong contender and have been, that kind of gatekeeper between these minor regions and then the major ones too. What are you looking for out of a representative that can gain experience from this next tournament coming up?
And that's a big question. We are just... I mean, that's just it. It's basically, what can you get out of an international tournament? What can you take back to the LJL? The reason
one of the problems with V3 last year was that, well, actually, most of their team had never been to Worlds before, and you could see it. They were so uncomfortable on stage. So maybe it's the experience?
Maybe that, exactly. I think at this point, we're going to cut ourselves to a quick break. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll wait out this pause and we'll come back. We'll bring in the analysts to take a look at this pick and ban phase. Stick around. We'll be back with those guys in a moment or two. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I've brought back our analysts from their waiting room where they've been chatting and chilling out. That's Joshi, Maple Street, and Counterfeit, who are, of course, our very special guest today. Joshi looking very pleased. He's pulling a bit of a Kazu off there, pointing himself in mild confusion. Got some word now about what's going on. Some audio issues on stage. It's been a bit of a consistent issue in the LJL, unfortunately. Trying to get this resolved, not being on stage all that much this year, understandably. Either way, does leave us with a bit of a pause to deal with. Gents, your thoughts on picks and bans? Counterfeit, lead us out.
Well, I mean, as I think, that was kind of front and center in everyone's imagination was seeing the Gnar taken away. I'm still intrigued to see what Cold can get done on the Volibear, because, if we go all the way back to game number 1, making that big tower dive was the pinnacle of what BP were able to pull off. in this case, they've got a better tool to be able to do that with. So I'd hope we get to see V3 making those kind of plays a lot more frequently.
It looks like literally the moment we pull in the analyst desk, we've got ourselves back into game. So I'll have some quick thoughts from Maple and Joshi while you're here, lads, and then we'll head straight back into game. Anything else you want to see out of this early game? 2 sentences max.
I like both drafts, and I think DFM have a chance to, play aggressive and snowball.
Joshi.
Yeah. Arya's about to pop off, but I feel like this is a throwback. This looks like 11.2, 11.3, and hopefully they can play it just as well as they used to.
Thank you so much, lads. Well done for joining us there. It was only a brief moment. That's the problem with running this broadcast the way we are. We never quite know when we're going back into game. Thanks anyway for your quick thoughts, and no, Mara, glad to have you back.
I was in the middle of writing series on my other hand with my off hand upside down. You can't rush art, Sam.
I can't rush Art. Well, never mind, Art. We'll take being here in the game instead. Nothing happened while we were in the analyst desk, fortunately. Just a little bit more of that whole laning presence.
Seriously, look how scuffed this other series on my hand is. Anyway, okay.
Maybe a post game. You'll notice Steel has skipped Raptors to make sure he's around this bot lane early before Olaf. He wants to be here before Mujin can turn up and pull the play one more time.
That he can. So this time, no flash committed at level 2 from Kazu. Hit by the tongue lash. They're going in.
They're going to try and get in behind Hollow. They're going on to Reiner instead. There's the flash. Going to try and get the face breaker. Won't get all that much. There's the teleports coming in behind. That's a big one. And he's going to be a little bit late to this play. It's a double teleport coming in. Cogcog's here. They've got the stun to Kazu, but now everyone else needs to get out. Arya and Ebby all here. Massive stuns in the bot lane. Nobody is dead quite yet, but the HP bars are desperately low. Ho, 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 says Christmas Gragas. And Arya gets himself first blood in the bot lane party.
What a present for DFM. V3 come out swinging. They say, okay, you're going to innovate into, well, they're going to innovate into this. But they just do not get to roll with the punches this time. And this is going to be V3 losing that first kill. DFM strike first. The W doesn't hit. They don't have a great way to disengage after that point, but V3 say, oh, hang on, they've gone pretty far past the minion wave at this point. Maybe we can make ourselves a big play. Teleports come in, but there are 2 to respond from the side of V3, and Victor's teleport comes in late. Arya gets a 3-man stun after Ebby does a lot of the work there too with the 3-man belly bop, and after that point, the extra order comes through. Arya picks up the first kill of this third game.
And it turns out Disco ain't dead, and the rave is happening down in bot lane is where it was at. And that was a hell of a play, bot lane. Check out the summoner losses. A lot of teleports down, a lot of flashes burnt, particularly from V3. Flash down on Cog, Hollow, Reiner. Whereas over on DFM, still the Hex flash over for Kazu, of course, but only the Ghost down, really, aside from that for Steel. It's definitely coming out on top on the summoner trade there.
They are. So, both top laners teleport down. Cog, sizable advantage from that first couple of waves of trading, and the wave is pushing in, so Cog will have the gold lead even after that assist comes into Ebby post this first phase of the game. Ebby at least managed to get that tier. Even if you don't upgrade it, it's just such a good extra laning tool to be around, just because particularly mana for Gragas means sustain because of his passive. Ebby is going to be more than happy taking and soaking pressure in this top lane now.
And look who's back. Steel's still around. He's at level 5 nice and early. Maybe looking to try and get in. Kazu gets rooted by the last embrace, but down he comes. Olaf is still around, though. And I think it might just be a little bit too aggressive to go in down here. And while Cog got himself a lead from the awkward TP position for Ebby, same happened to Ace on the Victor early on.
Yes. And then Arya gets the kill, gets a CS lead, backs for both a Dark Seal to amp up that Corrupting Potion and the amount of healing it goes through, and a tier, which will then go into that Seraph later on. Arya is in a very comfortable point, because normally on the control mages, you want to be able to back, refill that Corrupting Potion, and then get that tier early.
Level 6 needs the... doesn't quite have the mana. He's waiting for it. There it is. It's just the burn from Corrupting Pot won't quite do it. That was an auto away from death. Steel's going to come down and try and force Muujin away, who's desperately low as well. He'll smite and try and get the heals up, and now the healing from Muujin is going to be very, very strong, but the Aura of Dread comes out. One final rampage would do it. Flash away from Muujin, gets him away, and he gets first dragon as well.
Muujin gets the dragon, at least secures that. Ebby, pretty low on mana, not sure if he has enough for anything, and level 6 hit by the volley back. I think he's safe for now.
That's a big stun on the Thundering Smash with the Skybridge, but he can come and get the kill himself. Flash for Ebby, but I don't think he's going to try and get out. He's going to go the other way. Has got the cask for the slow. Doesn't really have mana here, though, so he's going to struggle to get away best he can. He'll try and go over the wall, and does manage to outplay with a decent flash in the opposite direction.
Yeah. Top lane alley-oop from Ebby, not going to be outdone quite yet in this game. Steel, though, on the Hecarim, not actually being bullied around by Muujin like the previous matchup between these two champions. DFM lose the early dragon, but I don't think they're that worried about it. They have absolute control now in the mid-jungle 2v2, which is, again, they lacked in that loss against V3.
Ace, he didn't die there, but he loses another couple waves. He is down literally half the CS of Arya right now.
That they are, and Ace has just been continually deprived of resources. Yes, Victor kind of wants to be involved in fights just so he can get those extra upgrades, but he still wants to be farming. He is not a low economy champion, but with that failed teleport bot side, and then of course being forced out of lane again, Ace is on the very lowest of funds you'd expect a Victor to have in his current meta.
It's a bit of a rough one there. He's down 1,000 gold. It ain't even 8 minutes, and DFM looking to return the favor from last game.
Has the same gold as his fasting Senna.
There is no ult, there is no flash. They get the cast back a little bit, trying to get enough damage down. I don't know whether they'll quite have it. There's the Onslaught of Shadows that he's feared away, and Cog falls down. The old school Ebby and Steel combo finds their mark in the top side. Arya stepping forwards, gets another unleashed power. The Chaos Storm comes out, but it doesn't get anywhere near the same amount of damage.
And again, Arya just doesn't need to keep flashing forward or anything. He's fine to take these chunks out. Ace is now within if he gets hit by a stun, he will just die after that point. The Victor is just bleeding pressure in this mid side. Arya, MVP candidate for the league, definitely been one of the standout performers as soon as he has headed to this region, is once again making his brawn known in this mid lane laning phase.
Just so incredible. He's doing pretty well out here on his own. He gets the first blood, he takes the advantage from where the teleport left him, and he is continuing to push it. The Herald being started by DFM. Muujin's around level 6. It will be a bit of a smite fight, and it's taken by Steel, who has got it. I didn't see quite who secured that one, but now they've got to try and wake their way out. Ebby's around, though. They're going to try and trade onto it. Muujin very, very low. No mana. Going to try and get out now. There's no unleashed power. He's got a Flash Cone. Not again. Flash over the stun is there, but they can't quite find the last Q or the last auto. Muujin gets away with the kill, but they will get the Herald of DFM.
The closest of margins see Olaf to safety once again. You will remember this as the day you almost caught Captain, well, it's not Jack Sparrow, but Muujin's the next best thing. 2-1 in the kills, but V3 do end up, well, again, avoiding the worst case scenario.
Arya did blow the flash for that as well, which is going to be a bit of a difficulty, and Ebby probably needs to be a little bit aware. There is the Stormbringer for Cog around, and Gragas still down flash and Cask. The Cask is on a pretty low cooldown and should be back up before it's too much bother.
But again, what are the side effects? What's the collateral here? What's been lost besides the obvious kills and the objectives? Well, look at that mid lane. 35 CS to the advantage of Arya. Ace still is not getting the funds. He really wants to be impactful in this game, because if this Victor is online, maybe you can punish the first person diving in alongside Volibear in the center. But because Ace is going to be very slow to those first upgrades, no assists, low farm numbers, going to be low, late to his first items too, Ace is going to struggle to be relevant in this game.
Cog gets the Sky Splitter shield, and then Ebby just waits it out and slaps him with the belly. And we'll continue to move on from here. About a 400 gold lead to DFM. They were a little further ahead, but they've got a Herald in inventory, and that one kill back did at least staunch the bleeding a little.
And this is kind of sad for Ace, because you normally want to back just before a cannon wave, and he's had to use the Chaos Storm to kind of just paper over the cracks of his laning phase, and now when he really wants to be resetting, does still have the teleport, gets himself a Verdant Barrier, and that's a very necessary purchase at this point. But Ace is struggling really to keep up with the tempo of this game right now.
Here's a touch. Kazu takes a bit of a nasty trade there and will back away for a reset. Steel It's got Herald and Inventory, about 20 seconds till this Cloud Dragon, and I suspect we might see that summoned in a lane to buy pressure to start up this second
Well,
dragon.
can V3 even afford to fight over it right now? The mid
He's
laner is a
here.
non-factor. Cog and Ebby have Ebby's managed to even up that CS
Ace, who
discrepancy on
can't
the
be
top
there.
side. And Ace is just trying to find any entrance into this game at all. Is going to be backed up by Mugen at this point, but the key about V3 is it seems that they often need the mid-jungle 2v2, not just the jungle 1v1 to be going well.
Steel's getting traded on here by Mugen. Slight freeze frame right now, so we'll wait and see exactly how this one has played out. I've got no idea, but there we go. Comes back around, and Steel gets to walk away, but that means the Cloud Dragon's alive, and Steel's not really there to be
Yeah.
on this dragon.
Looks like Kazuya taken aback, and with that bot lane reset, V3
Instead of playing top.
play Darius top though.
They're going to try and outplay this one. No flash, but there is a Stormbringer. Cog needs to find his way out. There is the teleport trying to buy space, buy time. They're going to might be in trouble here. There's a Dawning Shadow. It'll be a 2
Ace.
versus 3. Ace, I don't think wants to be here. Gets devastating charge back. There's the onslaught of shadows. Cog dies. And now Ace under tower needs to be afraid.
Once again, Ace gets nothing done. There are no kills traded back. He's losing
held
waves.
Inventory.
At least it's going to be Mugen picking up something. But Ace is the person who's losing out. V3 are often used to use Ace to give leads to other lanes rather than play around him. On this Victor, though, he is just bleeding out. And as we were saying, Victor is not an economic champion. Feels like V3 haven't really got the better end of the deal here.
Mugen, though, gets free time to get 2 plates for himself and a whole wave in mid lane. So
5 plates top.
This will be 5 plates top, but of course Mugen basically saying, I am the carry now. Will get a lot of damage onto Mugen, who has got flash, but no room for Ragnarok. Needs to be
no
afraid here.
mana.
Utapon's here as well. I think some CC, and in comes this Kai'Sa looking for the Q and gets it. Mugen overshoves in mid lane, tries too hard.
And this time, when DFM are going for the plays, it doesn't feel like an overforce. They're slightly more comfortable with the pace of this game right now. Mugen dies on the Olaf. Didn't do that at all on that previous Olaf game. First turret goes to DFM. Plates were shared between Steel and Arya. You know what I was saying about Syndra probably needs a lead to be doing relevant damage to the likes of the Tom Kench and the Volibear later into the game. I think he's got it, Sam.
I think he does. It's 5 plates to 4 trade, because 2 were taken in mid, 2 were taken in pot for V3, but Mugen dying as well is not great for them. First turret on top of them
that is something
is
you
not
can
great.
say.
And we'll see a replay here about what happened topside. They seed the dragon and instead just say, well, Cog, you're going to die.
They do. I think what V3 are banking on is the fact that DFM are probably just trying to check out this bot lane dragon because they know that the trade between those junglers happened. That's not the case though. Arya was already roaming top. They seed the dragon and they go for this, this 3v2 in the top side. And Ace again just doesn't have the damage at this point to turn things around. Cog is caught out, and this Volibear, who's meant to succeed in the early lane, use that to get advantage as much in the way that Renekton does, and then become more of a brawlier frontline in that mid to late game, is just falling too far behind now to be as relevant as he'd like to be.
Mugen uses all his mana to try and take down those plates in mid lane, and means he has none for Ragnarok and gets run down in mid lane, which is not what you want to see as an Olaf.
So Utapon manages to find his way out of lane, flash away from the Olaf, does not carry them to safety.
The Acathian rain comes through, and turns out Mugen didn't bring an umbrella.
No, he did not. Ace gets his first upgrade, 40 minutes in, much
bot
later
lane.
than he'd like.
Here's
They
a
don't have
teleport as well. Okay, that Tom Kench ain't getting far enough away. The exhaust is down as well. Mugen's going to be here, but it's a 4 versus 3, and Reiner's running the wrong direction. He's going to be the sacrificial lamb. The Ignite's down as well. The Scout of the Week comes through, and Utapon gets himself a second kill in the game.
So, not just Arya with a lead, now it is going to be the Kai'Sa as well. Well, we saw what happened last time Utapon picked up that champion. You best be bringing maybe not just an umbrella, you're going to need yourself a full wetsuit.
Yeah, it's looking a little bit more and more like a full thunderstorm here, and I thought the Stormbringer was supposed to be on V3's side. Ain't looking that way right now. Tempest turns against them. They are in a pretty difficult gold discrepancy here of about 2,500 gold at the 15-minute mark. Not quite as ridiculous as it was last game, but it's still very challenging for them.
That is. So, plate gold was traded by V3. A lot of the gold went onto Mugen. It's just all of the expensive Ace, and that's the worry which I've got. I don't think it's Ace's fault. He's been trying to make the most of losing situations.
Down
I
50
do
CS.
think, yeah, I mean, but then you also are playing against a very proficient Syndra player who got first blood in a trade where you both use teleports. You don't even get yourself like a traded mid-wave for that. Ace has just been on the losing side of multiple plays which have compounded each other. And Victor is someone who likes to build up those small increments of leads. Instead, he's just been dropping those increments, and they've been, well, nothing short of catastrophic at this point.
I don't want to dwell too long on things like CS Factory, because they're often, like, at least in a game like this, often precipitated by teleport plays and roaming around the map and all the rest of it that does lead to these advantages. But the end result is that Aria's halfway to a Flame Horizon, and it's 15 minutes into the game.
And this is, again, why we want to see this player internationally. We wanted to see Aria to get some of that international experience. Actually, last year I was saying, okay, well, maybe CGA could do better at players just off the fact that they have that star player, much like, you know, DO1 or Kati from the VCS, and we saw that from, you know, PSG. No Man's from the Unicorns of Love. This is the kind of player I would put on the same kind of pedestal as that level of players. He needs to have that international experience, though, to really start unlocking that side of his playstyle.
It's not like he's even the only superstar. Utapon, Ebby, also right up there as potentially the best in their roles. I think it's hard to make arguments against him in some ways. Slight issues by the looks of it over on the LJL broadcast, and that's not us. Apologies for that. Send your complaints over to Right Japan. And we'll do our best to deal with it as it stands. Herald summoned in mid lane. Going to try and get this tower down. It's going to go and get chunked out. The eye is done, but it's getting taken. He's got aggroed onto the wave. One final charge in. It goes down before it comes through. That's unfortunate for DFM. They're going to try and move back over towards the Herald, but that's Ebby getting engaged on. Has to get his way away with the body slam. But that's a big engage tool used by V3, I think. 60 mists just hit by Hollow, so this Senna continuing to scale up as well.
Okay, right, so DFM, they're trying to do the JRM. Kazu gonna get stunned, but he's pulling back to the team.
Yeah, it's a decent buffer out of it. Big stun back. That Dawning Shadow was pushed ways away. The Dawn goes the wrong way, but still Kazu dies to 1-for-1 right now.
The stun?
The massive stun. Ace now taking trouble. I took a moment to take a breath, and I really shouldn't have, because a double for Syndra. Of course it's for Syndra, because Aria's power is unleashed in this game. You take him over Seros, you bring him in to complete your all-star roster, and he brings out an MVP performance in this game 3.
Not again. Finds another one. We've got a bit of a pause coming in from our end of the stream. Aria doesn't quite get the last Q, but Mujin is sent packing back to base.
Again, we'll deal with it in a second or two. It's just fine. We're all still here. Apologies again for that slight dip in the broadcast there. Hello.
Okay, so what we're trying to do just during this is just restart what we're doing in terms of our link to the stream. So you do have to see us for a moment. Oh no, shock horror. We're not Syndra, we're not Aria, and we're not any of these champions in the game. Just wait on us one moment. But honestly, just coming out and saying, oh, you know, maybe there's one last control mage left in the pool for Aria. Turns out it's a pretty damn good one.
Absolutely is. He does pretty well with it. He gets himself to that 4th kill. He's got 7 stacks on a Medjai's second, ladies and gentlemen. It would make so much sense, of course, to be here in Japan with a Death Note in inventory.
And one of the big things about this is that you pick up 1 kill and assist, because it's currently at 4 stacks. You get to that 10 stack mark, and then you get to have the extra movement speed. And what we were saying about V3 in game 1, and then kind of in this game too, there is a lack of long-range engaged CC. You have bits and pieces, but having the extra move speed to space things out, continue down for extra Qs, is so important for this champion with the phase rush.
Steel was hunting around there a little bit. There's no dragon to be had right now, so but both teams are still in this river fighting over vision. Steel could be in a spot of bother, but in goes Kazu with the showstopper, looking for the face breaker now, but Hollow flashing away. He's still going to have Steel on top of the back end of it. Kazu gets out, the teleport's coming through. I don't know how this one's all going to play out, though, as the onslaught of shadows into the killer instinct and the Acathian Reigns are there. Utapon on one side is just running them all down. 2-level advantage. And when it rains, it pours. DFM find it all.
And again, we're moving up from Umbrella to wetsuits. You probably need a submarine because this game is being submerged by the DFM gold lead. Again, they are slapping back because V3 slapped them hard in game 2. This is still not as dominant as how DFM was shut out at that point, but they have not been deterred so far. They're going to take themselves a Baron pretty much on spawn.
Everywhere you look, DFM are holding a lead. That's even with Mujin trying to take all the advantage he could for himself, shoving waves by himself. It's a 20-minute Baron. There won't be a steal from the Dawning Shadow. Mujin is around, but I don't think he's going to be allowed anywhere near this Baron. He's got Flash. He's got Ragnarok. They're going to go over and try and blow him up, and he just does not want to be there. Ebby's still going to chase him down. Just needs one final Q. Will short it slightly. And Mujin's chilling smite ensures that there's enough space for him to get away.
So Mujin doesn't get in for the steal. DFM, off the back of a series of mid lane plays, break open this game in its entirety. 7,000 gold lead, Baron to their name. They do have themselves outer turret still to take, and that's a big thing. This isn't a gold lead based off of structure gold. This is built off of just the gold they got from laning stats and from kills. Going into a replay again, this is going to be what happened just at the culmination of this river fight. Steel maybe caught out a little, but Kazu, we end up getting the heads coin flip on this one. Gets a really big haymaker shield because he's not finished off during that play. Good amount of damage coming through. Phase Rush activates, he's completely out. But the thing is that during all this time, Steel was the person that was initially picked, and that damage coming in from all these members of DFM, if you don't kill them off early, if you're not taking fights on your terms, and finish them off within a good, timely fashion, it goes to hell very quickly.
And there's only so many ways you can disengage this many people with this much damage, all able to get onto your face. It got pretty scary. Kazu plays the flash a little bit better. This set game has been a lot more controlled, I think, from the bot laner of DFM.
That's the way to put it, and you know what the really big loss in that one is? You know what I'm saying? Get a kill, get an assist, maybe you get some Medrai stacks. 13 now onto the tool of the Shinigami from Arya. More AP, more move speed, more problems for V3.
Cog doing okay in this top side. You know, he's got a bit of a CS lead. Ebby's had to seed a little bit just to come and make the plays, but your Gragas is far enough ahead at this point that he really does not care. Volibear is not going to be your carry. Your Victor or your Senna need the gold, and it's just possibly too late. It's got a Baron that's still in for a minute and a half. DFM are going to continue shoving through as many waves as possible, and they've got a lot of towers to get free.
That's what they're trying to do. Pushing in mid lane, going towards bot lane again. Again, just trying to sort out what's happening with in terms of the stream right now. Seeing if we can get that feed a little bit better to you. So please hold with us. DFM still pushing in with that Baron buff. They did manage to take down both the mid and bot lane outer turret, pushing into those inner ones now, which can be so hard to crack. But with their siege potential, with the potential of a scatter of the week or that explosive cast punting someone back into the team after those stuns land, not really sure V3 can healthily stand up to these turrets. They're just trying to weather the storm right now.
Back into game. Nobody's died. Nothing crazy has gone on. Baron's on for another 20 seconds. And it's just bought DFM chance to get through some of these outer towers. They get the inner in bot lane tier 2. And that's everything done. Hollow at least hits the 80 missed mark, but he's a long way behind in terms of items. And Kazu just going to pull the trigger instead. The showstopper is here, and...
Okay.
Well, that was a little anticlimactic, and the show stopped because there wasn't much of a show to begin with.
Okay, so you lose the set ultimate. Doesn't really lose you much else, though. You take Reiner on a ride and you say, okay, maybe we can make a play of this. Don't manage to get the face breaker just after. And Kazu in his second set game ever, according to Maple Street. Never played it before. Whatever. Doesn't really find much for it, but doesn't lose anything either.
DFM get a hold of the red buff as well, continuing to just invade and prevent Mujin from getting into his own jungle and securing his own buffs.
Okay, so... V3 staring down this 8,000 gold lead now from DFM have at least survived the Baron buff. They lost themselves that bot lane inner turret, but nothing more than that in terms of their more central structures to their base. Waiting, of course, now on the next big objective, spawns, even dragons apiece. It is an Ocean Rift. Ocean Soul is the first time we've had really a meaningful soul on the map, because we've had 2 Cloud Souls so far. But there is no soul point. V3, maybe they can give up a dragon. Maybe they can try and fight for that next one. There's a large amount of gold deficit they have to climb up in.
Reiner Abyssal voyages towards his mid lane tier 2 to try and save it best he can. I don't know how much he's going to get out of that, but seems to have done enough work right here to prevent DFM getting the whole turret. Still managed to chip it down to about half HP though. They're using their time pretty wisely even without the Baron. The map pressure continues to be all DFM.
And it does. Cog on the flank, but he's the same level as Steel, a level down on Ebby, stuns landing. You can see the siege potential of DFM. If Syndra gets damage down onto anyone because of the amount of AP and the lead they have, it is even the tanks from V3 must be wary.
Indeed, they do. Cog chased out from that Raptor bush. The rest of V3 huddled under their mid lane tier 2. And rightly so. Step too far out from shelter, and the continuing downpour of DFM advantages will continue to grow. Might overwhelm them. Cog a little bit caught out, but doesn't get hit by the scatter of the week there to keep himself safe. Ebby body slams away, and Mujin throws out an undertow, but this isn't the Olaf from last game. This isn't that guy who could just run at you whatever may happen. Just not the same advantages.
No, it's not. And we've used a lot of that language about hiding from the downpour, taking shelter. This is reminding me a lot of that Jurassic Park scene, where you're just kind of sat there waiting for this suspenseful music to come to a crescendo, and no, there's no Renekton, no, there's no Gnar, but I'm actually looking at the amount of brawn which DFM are packing, and maybe you could mistake them, or a couple of them for a T-Rex.
Yeah, Arya comes along and tears the roof off wherever you're hiding and catch you with your pants down. Not the best sign indeed. Poor old insurance man. What a way to go, eh?
No, it's not. It's horrible.
You don't say.
Funny how that works, but I mean, moving on to things with slightly more salient points. Kog'Kog, again, just playing close to the edge, has himself the Sky Splitter to give himself that shield. You just need to look for the unorthodox plays. Play around Brush Vision. It is an Ocean Rift. You are able to deprive DFM of a little bit more vision because of the expanded bush control. Kazu knuckling down, trying to maybe catch out Mugen. Did have that Ragnarok, doesn't find anything for it.
Has to use the smite. Of course, still got the one charge remaining, so shouldn't be in too much danger as Kog gets
Devours
devoured and pulls him away. They're going to try and pull Reiner back, but that Castle knocks him into the wall. In goes Utapon, though. Full solid a flash out with the Devour being down, and they're going to continue the chase forwards. Actually, with Hollow backing, that might be an option to get in. Ebby taken pretty low. The Dawning Shadow comes through, but he's got a body slam to escape from danger for now. Arya locked in place with the last embrace, but still nobody dies, and V3 survive for now. Not too much craziness happening.
No, and, well, V3, if we're gonna keep on those weather analogies, it's water everywhere. They're finding maybe hints of opportunities, but not a drop to actually drink. They don't get anything from it. Another dragon spawns, and now they've used themselves key ultimates, the Chaos Storm, the Dawning Shadow. They lose themselves a dragon. DFM, they don't exactly win that fight. They don't lose anything for it either, though, and they get themselves the dragon. They're still pushing in and getting vision in the enemy jungle. V3 are struggling to find angles in this game.
And Hollow has to be so careful right now. He's obviously getting a fair amount of souls, but he's a long way behind in terms of items, and more importantly, no flash, no heal, and a lot of people who would love to blow that man up.
Absolutely. And what's really dangerous now from the side of E3, and this often becomes a bit of a breaking point, that fulcrum around Tahm Kench games, is what we saw in that last fight. Reiner had to use the Devour onto his front line. That wasn't onto Senna. That wasn't onto Victor. And if you can't wait for your front line to really, outlast that fight and then save your back line with that Devour, something has gone horribly wrong. And, well, you can tell that from the gold, you can tell that from the kills. DFM, they don't even need to start diving the backline when they have a Kai'Sa who typically wants to be doing that instead of fighting front to back. They're just winning in all regards right now.
Flame Horizon count, Arya up about 70 CS. There's a bit of a trade going between Kazu and Mugen. I don't think Mugen is winning, which is a horrifying thought. The Void Seeker lands, but Killer Instinct is not pulled. Clearly doesn't see enough blood in the water quite yet.
But this is the thing, right? Kazu can sit there, Facebreaker, Auto, and then W, gets the shield and gets the Phase Rush after that point because Mugen doesn't have the Ghost. You can't chase him down. Ebby gonna get stunned up, doesn't actually lead to anything, and DFM maybe take this opportunity to start up the Baron. Is that blue ward spot in the back of the bed they drop to immediately after? They definitely see this going down.
I know it's happening, but overcome V3, and I'm not sure they really want to fight. They haven't got the best vision control right now. Kazu stepping forward for the flash, Facebreaker, lands it on 2, Reiner stunned in place and just goes down before the thick skin can happen. Now it's a 4 versus 5. Kin goes Kazu with the backline, he just goes down there before he can use the Haymaker, and now it's a 1-for-1, but the rest of DFM still healthy, still strong. Utapon is at the onslaught of shadows, goes further forwards, and it is a sun setting on V3's chances in this game. It is a 4-for-1 in favor of Detonation FocusMe.
DFM looking to regain the lead they made in game 1. V3, once again, the ball is in their court. They must return it in the next game or they will be out. They will be returning back to seeing DFM as champions of the LJL.
DFM roll with the punches from game 2 and start shoving in onto these Nexus towers. They're going to try and end it, but they don't have a Baron, and the minion wave is just about there, but they need to try and finish up this last Nexus tower. And,
Syndra still had all.
Oh my god, that is...
Syndra still had all, gets themselves some more Magi stacks. Arya just deletes the Tahm Kench. No, DFM don't get themselves the Baron out of it. They get themselves, the inhibitor top lane, the Nexus turret on the top side, and then a mid lane inhibitor turret. Well, inner turret, rather than inhibitor. They still take the lion's share of the rewards from that fight.
And it is a metric gigaton of firepower that Arya unleashes with his R right now. He is quite capable of deleting whoever dares step up to him. The Ragnarok burned already for Mugen. He's going to try and turn it around a little bit. Hollow is there. Ebby taken pretty low, but the Baron goes down, and now the rest of the fight can continue. Dawning Shadow means that Ebby falls because he can't escape Kazu. Goes over the wall with a showstopper. Mugen going to try and run him down, but here comes Steel. Oh boy, Killer Instinct means that Utapon gets that one. It's a 1-for-1 overall. Well played by Kazu.
I think you'll find this battle station is fully operational. V3 take a dive towards that Baron, and they find only bad things waiting for them. They do at least shut down Ebby. It takes them a hell of a long time, though. That Gragas is very, very tanky. Gonna go back to this replay. What happens? Well, they burn the Baron so quickly. V3 don't really get a chance to lay down any foundations, any vision to start playing around this. Steel, much more tanky than he was in his previous Hecarim game. Well, Kazu wishes he was a tad more on that front. But you're losing this fight, and the amount of move speed and mobility that Utapon is getting because he has that auto attack uptime to give him that lower cooldown on the supercharger means that he doesn't need to use his Killer Instinct to get into the fight. He has enough mobility without it, and then you can use that to finish off that fight later on.
Yeah, the battle station might be ready, and Counterfeit might have summoned the Revenge of the Sith in Game 2, telling V3 to do it. But it is all the return of the Jedi, the return of DFM in this Game 3. Doing very, very well in this one indeed. Up 12,000 gold at this point and feeling very happy.
Yes, and V3, they only have themselves a solo, a Rogue One victory right now, looking to make a few more, well, a clone of that game, one could say, trying to come back and take themselves a second game. But it doesn't look likely it's going to be this one.
Nexus Tower number 2, or Inhibitor Tower number 2 under siege. They've already got the one on top, as we mentioned. They've already got a Nexus Tower, which I was trying to allude to, and instead conflated them together there. And V3, they've got to pull off a miracle. They've got to find something, some way to get both Arya and Utapon before they can use all of their damage.
Well, they've never even got them once in this game. The bot lane gangs turned around in this one, remember. V3 not playing the same style that they had done before, not finding the same results.
Charge! Go Steel! The onslaught of shadows takes him further forward. Kazu taken pretty low, but he's got a Haymaker shield to keep himself alive. Ebby is going to take a bit, taken pretty low as well, but Reiner gets shoved back. And Arya just eviscerates Senna. Cogfog falls just after alongside Tom Kench. Ace finds himself a lot of damage. The Acathian Rain is there, and Detonation FocusMe find themselves at series point in an absolutely dominating Game 3.
Okay, so in our mirror matchup again, back-to-back, same roster, well not same rosters, but same organizations in the finals of the LJL. It is once again going to be DFM going up 2-1 in the series. They did that back in summer though and lost games 4 and 5 back-to-back. V3 will have to pull that performance out though. Every game so far has looked dominant.
Arya didn't get a lot done on the casting in Game 2. Seems he took that personally. He absolutely takes command of this Game 3. He leads the charge for DFM, alongside, unsurprisingly, Hecarim is doing exactly that with his Onslaught of Shadows, and they find themselves that 2-1 lead in the series. We're going to be cutting to a quick break so I can catch up with my analysts and see what they have for me, so stick around and we'll come back with some beautiful analysis in just a moment or two. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Detonation FocusMe punch back real hard versus V3. Had one clap into another clap back here from Detonation FocusMe. Aria. Turns out, I think your phrasing, Josh, he's a bit of a baller, am I right?
Yes, for all of our American friends, I believe this is the technical term. Arya is, in fact, a baller. But one of the things I want to address, right? I've said a lot over the past several days, past several weeks. DFM are the only team that can beat DFM. They are the only team that has beat them this season, and we saw that in Game 2 as well. And I want to address a little bit more about why this is. We saw in Games 1, 2, and 3, outside of like one or two plays that V3 are going for, right? They had a fantastic dive top lane against Evi. They dropped the Herald in Game 2, took the turret basically from 100 to 0 all at once, right? They have a couple of good plays. But after that, every single fight, every single objective take is started by DFM. Every single time the two teams clash, it's because DFM wants a fight to happen. And when they go well, this is DFM winning. When they go poorly, this is not V3 making a play and it going, well, it's just, well, I guess we just let DFM beat themselves. And that's one of the big things that we saw in this game quite a bit. DFM were very willing to make a lot of fights. They were always in places first, and they were taking fights that didn't necessarily look super good or super relevant at the outset. And this is one of the big examples. They just go down to the bottom lane. They're saying Kazu dies multiple times at the beginning of the game. Let's preempt that. Let's be the first ones to the fight. Let's bring our entire team down here in order to get it, and it ends up working out, even if by only the smallest of points.
It is a full party in bot lane. Steel finally comes down and preempts Mujin going to the bot lane, doesn't go for the full clear. Arya gets first blood, and it's kind of the story of the game from there. Maple, take me on from this, because Arya gets first blood, he gets a much better position with the wave when he teleports, and he just runs over the game from here.
Yeah, it all started in ban and pick, when you can give Arya a champion that he has early game control. He gets the first TP in, and he just completely bullies the ace over and over, and just builds a massive, massive CS lead, and it eventually becomes like insurmountable for him. He just can't do anything in lane.
Yeah, watch this flash, actually.
So nice.
The baller play.
Counterfeit, get in here. Arya just making everyone feel reason. Look at that scout of the week.
I mean, it was honestly, as a newborn V3 fan, I was just Arya was just the object of my ire the whole way through that game. I mean, from getting that first blood down the bottom lane, they never let hold of the game. They honestly, when you contrasted the two mid lanes in terms of the impact they're having on the game, it made Ace look invisible. And I think for a huge portions of the later game, I would honestly, from V3's side of things, while they were playing things out as cautiously as they could as a team who were very far behind, we said they weren't even getting close to making any kind of play.
Anytime V3 popped up on the map, DFM decided, you know what, we'll take that fight. And V3 never, ever got to leave turrets because they were so willing to brawl with their leads. And Counterfeit, if you want to continue on, I know you had a little bit of a play around, specifically Kazu having a much better set game and a fantastic little escape from him, which I know you quite enjoyed.
Well, I mean, this one is particularly because it was such a heartbreaker. So this was when Kazu was able to bring Olaf across the wall into the Baron pit. This was like the late game V3 saying, wait a second, we can find our way back into the game, but
we have to do something.
Tragic. No, this is going through from much earlier on in the game.
It's fine. It's still the same
too many clips of
just
Arya dunking on Ace.
Yeah, it just happens throughout the game. Arya continually just presses his R button and people start disappearing. This is an interesting one as well, Maple, if you want to take us through kind of the second blood for DFM, who kind of seed over that dragon, just go top and make Cog's life hell.
Yeah, like, Arya's priority and can do things on the map. If you put him on Kassadin, it takes a very long time for him to do anything, but almost every play in this game was enabled because Arya was just playing out of his mind on Syndra, completely dominating.
I want to highlight this fight in particular as an interesting thing. One, Evi's teleport was hilarious. He teleported from the top side of mid lane to the bottom side of mid lane, and it ends up working out. But this is like one of those things where we're talking about DFM just go for fights. Like, there's no dragon spawning. right? The Baron, I guess, just came up, so I guess it ends up resulting in them taking the Baron, but it wasn't about the Baron. It was just a fight that DFM wanted to take in order to get some advantages on the map. They think they're stronger, and why not just take every opportunity to get every little bit of gold? And it's a huge stylistic difference that we're seeing from DFM. They're winning, and of course, Kazu yeeting Mugen over the wall and surviving
nice.
because of it. Super funny, but I think it's really super clear between these two teams how they like to play these things out, and Arya once again being a baller.
Counterfeit. You want to get in
Hashtag
here?
baller.
I mean, yeah, oh boy, it's tough. I think it's extremely tough for the rest of the series going forward because, V3, they look completely out of their depth in that last game. And I think if we don't see DFM trying to stray too far out of their wheelhouse in game 4, then there's not really any reason to think that it's going to have a different result. One of the things we wanted to pick up on was for V3, one of their avenues of success was picking up early Drakes, but I feel like that ended up becoming a poison chalice for them because they felt like then they had to contest the Drakes from that point forward rather than just kind of treating it as a lost cause. And that drew them into so many of these fights that they ended up losing significantly.
Okay. We're Maple's having some technical difficulties. He's trying to get here, but Discord's just not playing ball with him at the minute. So while I was going to ask him a little bit about what he wanted to see in this next game, I'll go to Joshi here a little bit just to close us out on this little desk. DFM took that one pretty convincingly. It wasn't a complicated draft. It was pretty standard, nothing crazy in there. Nara's off the table. In a relatively standard draft, DFM categorically won pretty much everywhere. What can V3 do to try and find another way back into this series?
I think one of the big things is you got to get Ace onto something that he can contest Arya in the mid lane, right? We saw previously after everybody teleports to the bot lane, Evie goes down 20 CS and almost immediately Arya's up 20 CS. But the difference is Evie brought that lead back for quite a while. He was down 20 and then he was down 10 and eventually because of gold allocation, he ended up going down further. But Arya took that lead and expanded it. You can't afford to give Ace and Arya a skill matchup. Arya is going to win that every single time. So focus on that. You've shown that you can play through the top lane. Cog is good enough to hold Evie at bay, but I'm not sure that's true of the mid lane. Give him something he can survive on or find him a good counter matchup. And if that means taking red side, so be it.
You heard it from Joshi. Get Ace out of the skill matchup because Arya will do Arya things. Baller with 25 stacks on his Magi's. I'd hate to be Ace in that situation. But we're going to go on a bit of a break, and when we come back, we're at match point for DFM. This could be our last game of the series. Don't go anywhere.